Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 4 in the NFL. One game going on right now at halftime, Patriots, Bucks, but we're going to go over all the games that have happened so far today. We'll start us off right away. We'll get right into this. Washington versus Atlanta is the first one on our list today. Washington wins 34-30. They come back at the end. I think a J.D. McKissick touchdown is what puts them over the edge there. Taylor Heinicke goes 23 of 33, 290, 3 touchdowns, 43 yards on the ground. I mean, he's been pretty good so far. Taylor Heinicke, didn't really expect to see it, but he had, I think, 33 points in this one, 24 in each of the last 2 weeks. He's been, he's a streaming option for sure for people if you can't find somebody. But Taylor Heinicke, another good game. A lot of that went to Terry McLaurin today, 6 for 123 and 2 touchdowns. McKissick caught the other one. Like I said, not much else. It was all spread around between everybody. Then Antonio Gibson was 14 of 63 and a touchdown on the ground for Washington. So what do you think about Heinicke? Are you confident in playing him?
I mean, right now, yeah. I would follow the trends and seeing how he's doing. He has a go-to guy in Terry McLaurin. He's outperformed what I thought he was going to. So as of right now, I still have him as a streaming option. I'm not jumping to conclusions here because I have to remember that it was Atlanta Falcons as well that they put 34 up on. Yep. But yeah, he's played well. So I have no reason to think that he's going to completely fall off. He's better than a lot of options you probably have out there, especially on the waiver wire. So yeah, it was really good to see. And they're starting to see that you do have quite a few different weapons on this team. Like you said, it was all spread out. Doesn't mean that I'm going to buy stock in a lot of the guys they have, but between all of these guys, especially McLaurin, McKissick, and Antonio Gibson, he definitely has enough to work with. So yeah, big game for him.
Curtis Samuel just came back as well. This one only caught 4 balls, but he's going to get back into it. So there's definitely guys to give the ball to. So for the Atlanta side of things, a couple stories here, I guess. Matt Ryan, solid game, 283 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Guess that's something to look for, is to play quarterbacks against the Washington defense. Washington defense has been poor so far, but the big story is Cordero Patterson with a massive game. So he had 6 carries for 34 yards, but 5 catches, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's become their main weapon on this team almost at this point, even more so than it feels like Patterson's more involved than Calvin Ridley is.
I mean, right now he is. I mean, he touched the ball more times. He was more effective when they have gone to him. Not saying that Calvin Ridley isn't still a good player. He went 7 catches for 80 yards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was solid.
That's also not what you're hoping to see comparatively when you're talking about Ridley, where you drafted him, what we know he's capable of. So even though he got you whatever it may be, 8 points or 80 yards worth, 7 catches, Cordero Patterson was far more impressive. I mean, 3 touchdowns receiving.
Yep.
And it wasn't like out of the backfield. It wasn't just these little dump off passes always. He's running legit routes and Matty Ice is finding him. And even more so is he only got 6 carries, 5.7 yards per touch when he's rushing the ball. The big one to me is, can they even give him more to do? Because Mike Davis got 13 carries and only turned it into 14 yards. So I don't know if, it all depends on the game flow and what they want to do, but could Cordero Patterson actually gain more rushing attempts as well? Right now, I mean, just looking at the last couple of games, he could, but right now he's the most deadly in the receiving role. I don't know if you can really plan for him all that much. So I really like him moving forward because he's, like we talked about, if he turns out to be something, he is one of the very few weapons they have on that team, besides for Ridley, for Pitts
But yeah, the Ridley hasn't lived up to the top 10 potential yet, and Pitts hasn't either. So but Patterson, man, he's a flex all day long. You put him in that flex, don't know what he's going to do. Davis saves his day with a touchdown catch, but other than that, he's just not that good. And that's what I tried to preach before the season started. He's not that good. He just isn't. And it's showing. Wayne Gallman even got in on it a little bit with 6 carries. So Wayne Gallman's starting to play a little bit, and Mike Davis can be hard to play for. He was hard for me to play before if I didn't have him anywhere, but I would not want to play him too often. Patterson's definitely the main guy there.
Yeah, I guess the question on this team is going to be Ridley. What do you do with him? Right. And it shows Atlanta was able to put up 30 points, right? Matty Ice threw for 4 touchdowns. There is, there should be optimism that he can definitely return to form, but you have to believe that it's a little more capped than we once thought. Is he a name that you're looking to move on now? He had 80 yards. It wasn't the worst performance. Or are you holding on to him, hoping for better days?
I would look at trading him because I feel like he still holds value, just name alone, and what his potential was. I mean, I can see people wanting to get Calvin Ridley. I'd want to go try to get Calvin Ridley if I get him for cheap, but I think it can go other way. I think there's other people that would want him. You could get decent value for him if you try to trade him out. So I'd look around, see what's there. Don't just sell him though. Again, don't sell him if the offers aren't there. But I think he still holds value. It's not like he's been terrible. I mean, that was still 80 yards, right? It's not he's putting up 4 for 20s. Like
exactly 7 catches is not. Yeah, it's not nothing.
No, so I wouldn't take any kind of discounted value on it at all. That's for sure. There's no need to do that. So, all right, let's move over to the next game. This one will be quick. Buffalo Texans 40-0 Buffalo. It's just easy for Buffalo today. Josh Allen throws for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zach Moss ran a touchdown he had 14 carries, 61 yards, got a touchdown. Singletary, 14 carries, 79 yards, no touchdowns. Dawson Knox catches 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 7 for 114. Emmanuel Sanders, 5 for 74. Trubisky came in late and ran in a touchdown. So just a good all-around day for Buffalo. Everyone kind of gets involved. Dawson Knox is looking more like a, back-end streaming tight end option if that's the case. But then again, it's Houston and they're bad. So I don't say there's probably not much to learn from this game for Buffalo. Just an easy win for them. Everyone got involved pretty much. So they're a good team. Houston's not.
Yeah. I mean, 0-40. So I guess if there's not a whole lot for us to learn from Buffalo, is there anything for us to learn from Houston? Because we know that with no touchdowns, no points, not a lot of points were scored fantasy wise. Is there anything to take away?
Until Tyrod's back, this is bad. This is just a bad team. Davis Mills, 11 for 21, 87 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 picks. It's pretty ugly. That run game is brutal. You don't want to touch any of those players. And then Brandon Cooks is the only player with any value on this team. And 5 for 47. So even in the worst of the worst games, he still gets you 5 catches for 47. If you're PPR, he's almost double digits. I mean, this is as bad as it'll get probably. And he's still something, but he's the only offense they have. So there's just nothing else. I'm still probably playing Brandon Cooks in most situations. Don't love it because of the team, but he's it. He's their only offense they're going to get. So that's it. Just bad team. Really, really bad team. Let's see. Next up, let's go Bears, Lions. Bears win 24-14. It was a solid day for David Montgomery. 23, 106, 2 touchdowns, and then the knee injury at the end. And we don't know the severity of it yet. And disappointing for everyone that has David Montgomery. It just didn't look good. Nothing looked good about it. We'll see what official word is, but it was a good day that ends poorly for him. Damien Williams came in after, had 8 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown. His name will definitely probably appear very near the top of our waiver wire episode, I would say. But at least they have that to fill in, but it's just, hate to see injuries. Justin Fields, 11 for 17, 209 yards. No touchdowns and a pick. So he's not getting nearly at 9 yards on the ground, which that's what we thought Justin Fields might have fantasy value, was that rushing, and it's not there yet. We'll see if this changes. I don't know what this offense is doing with him.
Yeah. I mean, once again, we're going to go back to the big question is, what do you do with this team now? Damian Williams will obviously be, depending on what happened to Montgomery. Montgomery is a very good running back to have. He gets a lot of carries. He had 23 in this game. Damian Williams, if Montgomery is out, looks like he's going to step right in and they'll use him the same kind of way. Mm-hmm. My question is for everyone else. I mean, Darnell Mooney had a really good game, which is great to see. He had 5 catches for 125 yards. First of all, keep it in check too, because Lions are poor.
Not good. Not good.
They're poor on defense. But Justin Fields has not been able to get it going. They aren't letting him run a whole lot. He did throw a few passes that I really thought were very nice for a young quarterback. But is there anyone else? Because even Allen Robinson at this point has been a big disappointment because of the quarterback play so far. I know I don't at this point, I don't think you can really move on. You can do this. He's more of a flex option for me at the moment until they get going in the right direction. I mean, 3 for 63, but once again, you're doing it against a really bad team. They didn't force feed him the ball as much as I thought they might in order to get him going, in order to get Justin Fields like comfortable. But yeah, they only threw it to him 3 times. He caught it. What is your feeling on Allen Robinson? Because we know how effective he can be.
I think you're right, though. You can't move on from him. The value's gone right now. It's not like we talked about Ridley. Robinson's value is just not there. So you can't move on from him. You're probably still put him in your lineup, it feels like, at this point, unless you have better options. But he is like a wide receiver 3 or a flex at this point. That's all he is. Hopefully you have better options, because I don't like that pass game. Yeah, Mooney had a solid game, but still. Until honestly, I didn't think I'd say this, but until Dalton's back, I don't feel good about the pass catchers. Fields just he's not there yet, right? It's just not there. So I don't feel great about Robinson, but I don't think you can do much. I really don't think there's much you can gain from trading him. Again, I don't think the value's there, and why you just hope that it turns around and he becomes what he has been in the past. And that's all you can hope for. So for the Lions, Goff, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he has a decent fantasy day in this thing, actually. His touchdowns, both of them went to Khalif Raymond. Quintus Cephas led the way with 83 yards off 4 catches. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 70. So that was probably his best day. Hawkinson, 4 for 42. Swift, 4 for 33. And so on the ground, it was Jamal Williams, 14 for 66, and DeAndre Swift, 8 for 6. Just when we thought Swift was really taking a take over this backfield. And Dan Campbell said great things about him all in the week leading up to the game. Swift is becoming, he's getting up in the top 10 running back ranks almost the way he's been playing. And then this happens. So ugly game. But I mean, Lions aren't a good offense. So you can't always trust that it's going to happen. So today, just not much happened. So don't love it, but I'm still fine playing Swift. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah. Where's Jamal Williams kind of fall for you? He was productive, 14 carries for 66 yards. He didn't have a catch this game. But is he a streamer for you? Is he in your, does he hold a lot of value or any value at all?
It's minor for me. I mean, he's probably always like around 30-ish, 30 to 35 in the rank. So yeah, that can play. You can use that. Some teams could use Jamal Williams, right? Some fantasy teams. If you're playing Jamal Williams in your lineup, I don't feel good about your team, to be honest, but he will be in lineups. It's just one of those that just not great. When bye weeks come up, he'll be definitely more useful when teams are starting to be on bye weeks. So Swift, I feel like it's going to happen. Swift is the much more talented player. He is, but Jamal Williams just doesn't go away. He didn't go away in Green Bay a lot of the time either. So he just doesn't go away. So don't expect him to go away right now either. All right, next up, let's move over to Panthers Cowboys. Cowboys win 36-28. Cowboys have had a solid start to the year. Dak in this one was 14 to 22, 188, but 4 touchdowns. So not much there, but 4 touchdowns makes it a great day. Zeke was 20 carries for 143 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So Zeke, just after we thought, Zeke's done, right? It's Tony Pollard now, and Zeke's looked great for 2 weeks in a row. But Tony Pollard actually played well too. He his 10 carries, 67 yards.
Yeah, Tony Pollard is not going away. He's a legit talent. It's going to be strange watching this team move forward, because 2 weeks ago, I could have swore that they would never throw it less than 40, 45 times. And now they kind of went away from that. And they won doing it. So, controlling clock, making sure that your defense isn't on the field nearly as much, obviously playing real football compared to what we talk about as fantasy all the time. Yep. But still, at the end of the day, and it was completely spread around. So 4 touchdowns, and they all went to different people. CeeDee Lamb did not get involved in this game, and that's probably the strangest one. Only 2 catches for 13 yards. But, Amari Cooper saves his day, and then Dalton Schultz, Cedric Wilson, Blake Jarwin, the tight ends, all catching touchdowns. So it was a good game for Zeke. Probably a little kind of annoying for the wide receiver owners of fantasy this time around.
Yep. And I wouldn't read too much into the CeeDee Lamb. I mean, there's only 14 completions. It's just not going to, chances are it might not be a big day, right? So for the Panthers, they get the loss, but Sam Darnold continues to put up fantasy numbers here. He's 26, 39, 301, 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 picks because he's Sam Darnold. So he does that sometimes, but he also ran 2 touchdowns in, which is Sam Darnold they're letting him run the ball. He's gone up in points now every week this season. So he had 21 week 1, 22, then 25, now 35. He's become a fantasy streaming option for sure. And I don't think the schedule doesn't really get any worse. He plays Philadelphia. I mean, it's not going to get, he has a good stretch here. Philly hasn't really stopped much. Minnesota, not scared about them. Then the Giants, then Atlanta. He has a good stretch coming up. So
he does. And man, there's a couple people on this team I've just never been a huge fan of. And especially with McCaffrey there, it caps all of their, the amount of touches they're going to get. But Sam Darnold has proven me wrong. Every time he goes out there, he's finding a way to put fantasy points up on the board. And then DJ Moore as well. He's turned into that legit threat. And the touchdowns we always thought weren't there, 2 of them today. So, I'll fall on the sword on this one. And DJ Moore is playing out of his mind right now. And, even more so is no one else necessarily. It's all DJ Moore. And we talked about Robbie Anderson a little bit, so I just want to mention him. But he is a hard one to solve because right now they did try to force feed him the ball. He had 11 targets. He only caught 5 of them for 46 yards.
Yeah.
That could have changed my mind this week, but I kind of almost went further down the way of I don't trust Robbie Anderson, but there's a couple other guys that I really do on this team.
I mean, Robbie Anderson's going to have a big week at some point, but you won't be in your lineup when he does it because there's no point to play Robbie Anderson at this point. So, all right, next up, Colts Dolphins. Colts win 27-17. Carson Wentz goes 228, 2 touchdowns. Those touchdowns both went to Mo Alley-Cox, of course, right? He gets both touchdowns there. On the ground, it was Jonathan Taylor, 16 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown for him. Michael Pittman caught 6 balls for 59, Pascal 4 for 44. So they get away. I mean, it wasn't crazy. John Taylor, solid day, but Marlon Mack had 10 carries as well. He didn't do anything with those 10 carries, only 22 yards, but they're slowly getting him back out there playing him. So Jonathan Taylor just never takes this offense completely over, right? He seems like he's clearly the most talented guy, always. But there's always somebody taking carries away. Now it's Marlon Mack. Last year was Jordan Wilkins. Naheem Hines is always around. If they ever truly gave it to him, he'd dominate.
That's very true. And it's Miami. So once again, when you don't play a great team, you can definitely salt games away. And that means other people are probably going to get carries, right? You're not going to put Jonathan Taylor in there to salt the game away when you have it won. Right? Let's get other people involved. This is what I really wanted to see. Jonathan Taylor being productive, getting the lion's share of the volume, getting over 100 yards, getting in the end zone. Because he is one that kind of goes up and down. Like he did it last year as well. So I just want to see him be more steady and getting the type of volume that you need if you're going to be that type of running back. But yeah, there once again, not a whole lot that I can learn from this. I would have liked to see more from Michael Pittman. Other than that, this is kind of picture perfect to what I kind of expect from the Colts. I don't think they're a high-powered offense, but they're talented enough to get it done. Jonathan Taylor is obviously the guy you want to own there. On the Miami side with Jacoby Brissett under center, look, he had an okay game. He had 199 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and then tries to run it 3 times for 8 yards. Obviously, he's not a guy that you want to play, but with him playing currently, do you see that there's still value with these wide receivers? Can he do enough?
So there's a some value, but it's more desperation play value. I'll say I don't want Devontae Parker in my lineup. I don't want Jalen Waddle in my lineup yet. He hasn't shown enough for me, and Will Fuller got hurt in this one as well, which is surprise, right? Yeah. So Mike Gesicki's the only one. He's been solid 2 weeks in a row because he gets a touchdown this time, but tight ends, more shallow. So Gesicki's about it. He's honestly the only one in this entire team that I'd want to. I don't even say want to play. Would feel okay playing because I don't necessarily want to play Gesicki either. But I'll say one guy I do not want to play is Myles Gaskin.
Well, honestly, I have no idea. Did something happen to him during the game? Because he was completely just disappeared from this offense. He only had 2 carries for 3 yards, and I don't think he caught a pass either.
Yeah, he was not hurt. No.
Yeah, that one's a weird one. I only caught parts of this game, so I was trying to piece it together.
You weren't just watching Dolphins Colts all day?
I know, you have to forgive me on that one. So I don't have the best insight on the.
But no, there was no injury. It just they got down. They couldn't run they weren't going to run the ball. Malcolm Brown got some, but I mean, Myles Gaskin, I'm telling people before this year, he's a guy. He is just a guy. That's all he is. He wasn't special.
He is a guy, but the thing that's crazy is he's definitely the guy that seems to be or has been the most productive in his, career compared to Malcolm Brown. And
that's true.
I mean, that's right. And then, Ahmad too, but I don't know. That was a weird one. Usually he's a little more involved. Only giving him 2 touches is pretty crazy, but maybe that's just what to expect when Tua's not in there.
Yeah. Just ugly right now. I don't feel comfortable playing many of these options, but I mean, in a pinch, Parker, Waddle, the very back end of wide receivers, and depending on the size of your league, Parker would have done fine for you today if you played him. Like, don't you have Parker on a team? You wish you would have played him today, so.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I did have to play him in one of my leagues, and the other one I took him out, and I put in Will Fuller because I was like, nice. I'm going for the home run. Yeah, so that backfired hard. He got hurt immediately. But Devontae Parker has been quietly okay. He would be someone that I don't mind.
Yeah, it's just
I don't want to play him. I try to take him on my lineup, but he will be there, and he will be at least he's going to get some looks. He had 9 targets today. That's every once in a while he's going to have a really nice game for you.
Yep. All right. How about Vikings? Browns win 14-7. I expected a little more offense in this thing. I did not expect this kind of game. Vikings have been putting points on the board, and Browns can score, too, but nothing here. For the Browns, Baker Mayfield. Baker was 15 of 33 for 155. No touchdowns, no picks. Not much. They just kept the ball on the ground. 21 carries for Nick Chubb for 100 yards. Kareem Hunt, 14 for 69 and a touchdown. So it's all on the ground. Higgins led the way with 4 for 63. Odell, only 2 for 27. And then 2 catches for Hunt, for Njoku, for Felton. Just all around there. They get the win, though. They won the game. Just, and there was, I guess, rushing fantasy. The only fantasy options were on the rushing crew there with Hunt and Chubb, and they're always going to be, right? Those guys are always going to pretty much get the job done. Baker, man, he's tough to use as a streaming option when he puts games like this in. Once in a while, they'll just run the ball, and that's what they can do.
Yeah, and they've shown their hand on this one. And as much as you can like Baker as a quarterback, but this offense is going to be doing this all year, right? Every once in a while, he will have a good passing day, but I'm not streaming Baker Mayfield if I can help it at all, because they are a run-first team. And on top of that, I mean, they're not trying to really force feed the ball to Odell. They did try to give him 7 targets. They gave him 7 targets. He caught 2 of them. And maybe when Landry comes back off the IR, maybe it changes a little bit. But right now, you can win this type of game by just grinding it out with Chubb and Hunt, who are probably the best tandem backfield that is in the NFL currently. Then they're going to keep doing that, especially when their defense is playing this well. So it has nothing to do with Baker. It's more about we can win games doing it a different way. We don't have to have him. Pretty much, he just doesn't turn the ball over. Like, if you don't turn the ball over, we can win.
Right.
And that's what they're asking him to do at the moment, and that's what he's going to do. The other side of the ball, though, the Vikings.
Disappointment today.
That was hugely disappointing, especially when Cousins has been very good, actually, as far as fantasy goes. And kind of all around. Justin Jefferson's the only one that kind of maintained what we thought he was going to do. 6 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Thielen finally comes back to earth, does not get a touchdown, doesn't get in the end zone. 3 for 46. So whatever. They gave him 8 targets. You're still playing Thielen. Delvin Cook, 9 carries for 34 yards.
I think he missed a couple series there too with that injury.
He's still banged up, which really hurts owners because you have to play him and hope that he's healthy. There's no other way around it for the most part. Yeah. So that one's going to be a wait and see kind of situation. But yeah, they just couldn't produce today, and Cleveland's defense was very impressive. So I got to give my hat off to them. I don't think it was necessarily Minnesota being bad. I think that a lot of it goes to Cleveland too.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much if I was, if I had Vikings on my team. They're still the Vikings. They're 1-3. They're not the greatest team in the world. So they're going to, against good teams, they're probably not going to play that well. against mediocre teams, they're probably going to put points on the board. So I wouldn't worry too much.
Right.
Dalvin wasn't healthy, I don't think yet fully. Hopefully he gets back on board. Next up, Giants Saints, and the Giants win 27-21 in overtime. Did not see that coming.
And
Saints are an odd
Peppers,
team.
Man. Did you see the coin flip?
Oh yeah,
that was good TV right there. Dropping a mother effer on too. But yeah, I mean, this was probably the biggest surprise for me. Did I know that the New York could put up some points? Sure. And did I know that the Saints have been kind of struggling? I did. Did I really think that New York was going to go out there and beat them? Absolutely not. And no. Especially the way they did it. I mean, really, it was a great comeback by them. And then they obviously score an OT. There's a lot of things that we can talk about with New York right now.
There is, which is surprising. I didn't think I'd have a lot to talk about with the Giants, but Daniel Jones, solid day, 402 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has had 3 good fantasy outputs this year. The one game he didn't was against Atlanta, which was surprising, where he didn't throw any touchdowns. That was the one you might have expected him to do great. And I started him that 1 week, of course. Other than that, he's been really good. So Daniel Jones, if against in good matchups, he's a good streaming option, I feel like, at this point. I didn't think I'd say that. I didn't think I'd be talking about Sam Darnold and Taylor Heineke and Daniel Jones as streaming options, but they've become that. So, I mean, more good weeks than not. So Daniel Jones is there. But it was nice to see Saquon start to do a couple things here in this one. He had 13 carries, 52 yards, and a touchdown, but then 5 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown. He had the game-winning run as well. That was put him in there. But just a solid day for Saquon, looking more like Saquon.
Yeah,
I think.
He had a rough first half, but he is capable of those big plays, and that's really what saved his week, right? And it saved the Giants too. They're gonna keep trying to do this kind of stuff to him, but he had a 52-yard touchdown,
a 54-yard catch,
yeah, and that went to the touchdown. So that was huge, having 74 yards receiving. It feels like a lot of running backs right now are kind of making their, their living actually receiving the ball rather than running it, but. Man, the guy, he does look healthy. And man, when he makes these jump cuts and tries to go to the outside, you remember how special the guy is. I can't wait until he really does kind of blow everyone away with another rushing, show. But the guys that I'm actually most excited about to talk about are the wide receiving crew that they kind of pieced together here, right? Galladay finally looks like himself. 6 catches for 116 yards, and John Ross, 3 for 77 and a touchdown. He had that deep bomb. He is fast as all heck.
Still
if he
is
healthy. He can produce here because they do like to throw the deep ball every once in a while. But the guy that I am most excited about was Darius Tony.
Yeah, wow. Some of those highlights
about picking him up, but he looks crazy good when the ball is in his hands.
Oh, he looks awesome. My worry is. It's only because Shepard and Slayton weren't there. What happens when Shepard and Slayton are there? They're going to go not to using him again. I hope not. This guy is awesome. Like they need to get the ball in his hands.
They do. I think he's a different type of player. I mean, certainly Shepard would get his catches, and Slayton has been more of a deep ball guy. So between him and Ross, I'm sure that's what they will be doing. But Kadarius Toney, you can see they can move him all over, man. They can throw little dig passes to him. He makes people look real foolish trying to break down and tackle him. So I do think this is the beginning of Tony starting to take off. Whether or not that's going to be a weekly thing, I have no idea. But hopefully you grabbed him, stashed him on your bench. If not, his name will definitely show up on our waivers.
Yeah, it's just I worry about the Shepard Slayton factor and how much is going to be there, but it's worth a look, right? Definitely.
Oh, without a doubt. He passes the eye test almost immediately, which is what you want to see. Yep. Anyway, on the other side.
Saints here. Jameis. Yeah, he's been kind of disappointing since week 1. This time 226 yards and a touchdown. I was warning people against that week 1. It was a little fluky. It felt fluky, and we're seeing it now a little bit here. They don't want to pass the ball too much, and it shows Alvin Kamara 26 carries. This is unusual for Alvin Kamara. He never used to get carries like this.
Yes.
But he's been he had 24 carries last week, 26 this week. He had 20 in week 1. He's been getting a lot of carries. That week 2 with only 8 was a little bit odd, but
yes,
and he's getting 20 plus carries a day.
That's definitely going to make the difference. You really love seeing that. But the thing that I was really terrified of has kind of shown up. I don't know if it's going to continue, but the Taysom Hill effect, where he's actually the guy that ends up with 2 rushing touchdowns, 6 carries, 28 yards. He gets to throw the ball 3 times, throws a pick. It was a deep one. It wasn't actually that bad. I think that was more of a good play by the defender.
But Kamara didn't get a target.
Who?
Kamara didn't get a target.
Yeah. And so you're kind of like, what is happening? Like 26 carries, I love to see. But at the same time, he makes his living.
I know.
Like so many other people do, being half and half. And on top of that is if you take away his touchdown upside, he still had a great game, 120 yards, 26, great. But if you're in PPR and especially in PPR, all of a sudden you're like, wait, what is happening? What are you guys doing on offense? Because I need him to catch the ball, and I don't want Taysom Hill stealing all his goal line carries either.
If he's not going to catch a ball and Taysom Hill is going to steal the goal line work, I don't like that. That's not top 3 player anymore. That's
right.
Little worrisome.
And the worst part is the running back situation has been so up and down. Kamara has been very healthy, very stable, and they're giving him carries, like, a lot of carries. So right now, there's nothing you can do but worry because he's such a big name. He's so talented and they are using him. But I feel like this team is starting to go in the way of just craziness where we're going to try a bunch of different things. Taysom Hill is going to be involved. And now we throw out what we usually do, or we used to do for the past 4 years or whatever it may be for Kamara. And he might start having these strange kind of production days where you can't really predict it because he won't always, even with 26 carries, he's not always going to go for over 100 yards, right? Sometimes it just won't be in the cards for him. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, but this is kind of a warning flag for me of, all right, let's pay attention and make sure we understand how they're using him.
Yep. All right, let's go to the next one. Jets, Titans, and Jets get the win in overtime. Again, another surprise here, 27-24. Probably Zach Wilson's best day so far as a pro. I don't think that's a stretch to say. 21-34, 297, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Those touchdowns went to Corey Davis, who caught 4 for 111, and then Jamison Crowder 7 for 61. That's a typical Jamison Crowder day right there, isn't it? 7 catches, 61 yards, maybe gets that touchdown. That's what he does. And Keelan Cole 3 for 92. The ground game isn't much. There isn't much there. They're not very good. Michael Carter is leading the way with amount of work, 13 carries, but only turned that into 38 yards. He did get a touchdown. If you played him, I don't really think you're playing Michael Carter yet. And you probably don't want to. It's just the Jets rushing offense isn't good. So it's nice to see Carter getting the work, but it's just not there. But yeah, Jets get the win. I mean, it's nice to see if Zach Wilson can at least play like this, he can keep Corey Davis relevant. Jamison Crowder can become relevant. That's about all you're looking for. You don't really expect much out of the run game here, but they get a win.
Yeah, good for them. And the bigger one is Tennessee. They've really come out struggling out of the gate. Derrick Henry has been doing his thing. So 33 carries, 157 yards, and a touchdown. He does exactly what he needs to do. The big question here was Tannehill going to be productive without Julio Jones and A.J. Brown? Both of them out hurt right now. Barely. By the end, he made it so his day was okay. I mean, he was actually a fine play, but it was looking really, really bad for 3 quarters there. What do you take away from that? Because Tannehill, he's been a lot more up and down than he has been in the past 2 years with Tennessee.
This is going to be, he needs those guys healthy, and I'm worried about him against good teams. Against the Jets, yeah, he's able to pull something together with nobody there. Next week against Jacksonville, he's probably an option no matter what, if Julio and AJ are healthy or not. You can probably still play Tannehill, might pull this kind of night out of it, but against Buffalo, against Kansas City, after that, I wouldn't want to play Tannehill right now.
Yeah, so he's actually turned into more of a streamer for you, along with the other unusual names that we already talked about, Daniel Jones and Heineke.
Well, I dropped Ryan Tannehill last night to pick up Taylor Heineke in a game. I never thought I'd say that or do that, and I did. And now I'm living the stream at quarterback now, so see how that plays out for me. But also for Tennessee, then I guess we'll go Derrick Henry. You knew he was going to get a lot of work without Julio, without AJ Brown. He had 33 carries, 157 yards, a touchdown. The guy just doesn't slow down. I don't get it. I don't remember many running backs that have been able to get this kind of workload over, years like this. And he keeps doing it, but he does. He wears defenses down. It's crazy. So great day for Henry again. And Jeremy McNichols, his backup though, gets 8 catches for 74 yards. Only 1 carry, but 8 catches for 74 yards. Someone needed to step up in the absence there. So, yeah, we'll see what happens if AJ and Julio are back and change things. But Derrick Henry's just going to keep doing that. All right, next up, Chiefs. Eagles. Chiefs win 42-30. Patrick Mahomes throws 5 touchdowns in this one, 278 yards. Solid day for him. 3 of those went to Tyreek Hill, who puts up one of his big days that he does every once in a while. 11 catches, 186 yards with those 3 touchdowns, which is good because he follows up last week's 5 for 56. And the weeks before is 3 for 14. But week 1, 11 for 197. That's what Tyreek Hill does. When he goes off, he goes off.
Yeah, he'll win you a week. I mean, this was unbelievable. He looked unguardable today. And with that, Patrick Mahomes looked, insanely good as well. 278, 5 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. But the weird one about this one was you actually got to see what it would look like if they ran the ball a little bit. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 14 carries. He ripped off he was just doing well. He didn't actually have one long play. He ended up with 107 yards. His longest run of the day was 17. He looked good today. And then Darrell Williams did too. He had 10 carries for 42 yards. He was the one that ended up with the touchdown. But, Edwards-Helaire actually caught a touchdown. So he had a big game for him as well.
He's two good weeks in a row for him. So,
yeah, it's very, very good to see. But other than that, it's pretty much business as usual. The only person that kind of disappointed was Travis Kelsey. He was 4 for 23, but obviously he's still.
It's just sometimes those weeks happen, right?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
You don't think it would in a 5 touchdown game, but it does sometimes. Then for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, 387 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, ran for 47 yards, continues to put up fantasy numbers. I mean, he's honestly, we talked about him all preseason, and I don't think we even expected this, to be honest. Not these numbers.
He's definitely doing better than I thought he was going to, but we were definitely right on when we talked about, even if they're not winning, even if it's not good football, quote unquote, he is going to be good for fantasy. And you're seeing it right here. I mean, the amount of yards he threw for it was actually what shocked me the most. 387 is no joke. And, he's just having a very, very good season so far. The one thing that I did love the most about this, they didn't get the run game going at all, which that can happen because obviously you're going against KC, so you're going to have to keep up. But finally, Devonte Smith has a game you can hang your hat on and say, okay, there is actually something here. 7 catches, 122 yards on 10 targets. He's starting to look more and more comfortable, which is huge, especially for the people that drafted him. He's looking like he could build into something, especially for the second half of the year.
Yep, definitely. And then Gainwell ran a touchdown in. Goddard caught one, 5 for 56. Ertz was 6 for 60. Gainwell was 6 for 58 too. He's definitely playing. He's definitely going to be involved. But the Ertz Goddard split still there, isn't it? Doesn't look like it's changing much.
Nope. But right now I'm rocking Goddard on a lot of my different teams, and
you see that
every time he catches a touchdown, you're like, okay, good, because tight ends are rough. And look, he outscored Kelsey today. So,
right.
What can you do? You're hoping that it turns a little more, especially for 387 yards. I would hope that a few more would go to Goddard. But I guess at this point, what's the saying? Beggars can't be choosers. So he's still heavily involved.
Next up, Cardinals Rams. Cardinals win 37-20 at LA. I did not expect this, to be honest. I thought Rams were going to win this game. But Cardinals are good, 4-0.
This was the most impressive showing of the week, I feel, because the way they handled LA, they beat them handily, and this is with LA kind of putting in a trash touchdown at the end.
Right.
So, man, Kyler Murray once again comes out and play. He just played really, really solid today. He didn't have to throw for 4 touchdowns and do all that, but 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he runs for another 39.
So interesting thing in this. So interesting in this is, Chase Edmonds he had 12 for 120, boosted by a 54-yard run, which helps quite a bit. The interesting thing, James Conner, 18 carries, 50 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 2 weeks in a row he's had 2 touchdowns. James Conner is getting those goal line looks, which actually, this could be one thing that hurts Kyler. Is Kyler last year would score those, get down closer to the goal line, and to be Kyler, they do something and he'd run the ball in, right? Well, they're going to James Conner now, which makes James Conner interesting just because of touchdowns. I don't know. He's definitely when bye weeks come up and your options are limited, James Conner, you could take a look and just hope he gets a touchdown, right? But
yeah, without a doubt.
I don't want to play him, but you just, you hope he gets a touchdown. He's 2 weeks in a row. He has 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks.
I don't really want to play him currently either because he has to score a touchdown because they gave him 18 carries and he only turned it into 50 yards. That is not always going to happen. But right. I mean, at this point, everyone looked good against the Rams, which is not a bad defense. So I feel like once again, if they keep scoring 37 points, everyone you can throw in your lineup. What happens when they do finally hit one where, okay, we only scored 21, 24 points, and then who is it actually going to? Because Kyler is always going to be safe, and then we start having to worry. But between Edmonds and Conner, that's always going to be up for debate because Conner will take touchdowns. Edmonds is probably going to get more yardage. So, I think that's just going to be a stalemate for now until an injury or something becomes different. But the passing game has been so good that it's very difficult to start figuring out who is going to have the big game. Hopkins, always a guy you're going to throw in your lineup. Did not get the touchdown this time around. 4 catches, 67 yards. All the catches looked really, really good. But AJ Green, once again, comes up with a touchdown. Very interesting. And a tight end that's actually becoming very intriguing, Max Williams. 5 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. What are you thinking about him in general right now?
So he's had 2 good games so far. He had a 7 for 94 in week 2. Other than week 1, he didn't do anything. Week 3, he didn't really do much. But again, tight end is what it is, right? So sometimes this is one of those guys where if you're stuck like you had Gronk, like I was this past week, and you're just like, all right, I'm going to throw, I don't know, who am I going to throw in there? Maybe you throw a Max Williams in because you just get a player on a good offense. That's how I'm looking at it right now. He might get you little, but there's the chance for a touchdown. There's, he had 7 targets in that week in week 2. So 5 this week. That's solid. That's actually for what we get at tight end right now. That's pretty solid. So I just keep watching him and see what happens. Hopkins, I think Hopkins is still battling injury. He had that rib injury. He was questionable last week. I feel like that's part of what's going on with him right now. But AJ Green's involved. I mean, 5 catches now, 2 straight weeks. Every single week he's had 6 targets so far this season. So that's about what he's going to do. He might get you a touchdown, but he's definitely there as well.
Yeah,
so just overall great offense.
Even over the other wide receivers that might be a little bit younger and maybe a little more athletic at this point in their career, but Christian Kirk only 1 catch for 5 yards. They only target him 1 time.
He'll be up and down, I think, all year.
He'll be up and down. And then Rondell Moore as well. 3 catches for 28 yards. He also had 2 rushes for 9. He looks really exciting when he gets the ball. I would love to see any of these guys get it, but right now they're spreading it out and they're doing a wonderful job of it. So I don't see that really changing at all. Which one of these guys are guaranteed starts as far as wide receiver goes, and which ones are just streaming or put them on your bench and this is for bye week kind of fill-in?
So, yeah, I mean, obviously you play Hopkins, but that's it. Other than that, AJ, I would feel out of like AJ Green, Rondell Moore, Christian Kirk. Obviously, I think Kirk and Rondell can have better, like bigger games for you, but I think AJ is just going to be solid. That's pretty much what I'm expecting. If he's getting those 6 targets every day, he's going to be solid. Sometimes he'll get you the touchdown. He's one, if you just feel like you need just a safer option, you just can use AJ. If you're looking for more upside, you still want to go Kirk or Rondell, but I'd rather not play any of those 3. You're down there a little bit, right? When you get to those guys. But again, bye weeks are coming up. You're going to have to at some point. So, but if you just need safety, go with AJ Green. I think that'll get you what you need there. For the Rams, you got Stafford, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of them was late. That's kind of garbage, right? And so
it saved Robert Woods.
And it saves Robert Woods
as well.
Well, it saves Robert Woods almost a season, to be honest. Like this is where
a brutal start.
Yeah, at this point, he had done really nothing since week 1. He had 3 for 27 and a touchdown. And he was 5 for 64, 3 for 33. This doesn't tell me anything. He was 4 for 48 and touchdown. It's garbage. It doesn't. I don't care. That still means he's not involved. He's not been involved early.
This is the thing. Robert Woods has not been involved, and other people are starting to figure it out. Like Van Jefferson, who I believe they took, was he 3rd year in the league, or is this 2nd?
Might be 2nd year, yeah.
I was going to say, he's one of those, which was a name coming out of the draft. He found a way to get in there. 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, that is good production for him. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, he had 5 for 64, but he's been a rock star.
Yeah, just
all game.
one down week for Cooper.
Has been, yeah, it's a little bit down. But Higbee is getting targets. They're trying to get him the ball. Woods seems to be the only guy that they just cannot figure out how to get the ball in his hands right now, which is very strange. Because the past 4 years, that has been the guy that you can count on, even if you think someone has more upside. I don't know. That's the strangest one. We have to talk about him because what do you do with Woods right now? I mean, honestly, if you have him on your team, are you putting him in the starting lineup?
No, I can't see it. I don't feel like I don't think I could. I feel like you're going to have other options. I don't want to play Robert Woods at all. I mean, yeah, that touchdown shows me nothing right now.
No, I mean, thank goodness. I mean, if you had him in your lineup, which we have a million teams. So one of them I did have Woods in, and I was like, thank goodness, because I was forced to play him. So good, but man, I still don't feel any better about him.
Then I say for the run game, Gerald Henderson comes back and takes it back over. Sony Michel lost a fumble, didn't help him at all. Henderson's backfield. That's just as simple as it is.
He looked really good too. 14 carries, 89 yards, and then he had a couple of catches for 27.
Yeah, so Sony Michel's not going to be a factor. He's just not going to be a factor as long as Henderson's healthy. He's just not. So, all right, next up, Seahawks 49ers. Seahawks win 28-21. Jimmy Garoppolo left this one. Trey Lance came in, probably going to be the quarterback for a few weeks at least. But Seattle first here. Russell Wilson, 16-23, 149 yards only, but he had 2 touchdowns through the air and he ran one in. So he gets a pretty decent fantasy day for you there. Chris Carson had the most carries, 13 for 30, but Alex Collins, you get an Alex Collins sighting here, and he gets 10 carries, 44 yards and a touchdown. And it doesn't, there wasn't any indication that Chris Carson was injured, anything like that, but they're playing Alex Collins now, which is interesting, right? I mean, you're not going to play Alex Collins in a fantasy lineup. All this does is just possibly cap Chris Carson if they're going to use Collins.
Yeah, this is the worst news you can get if you're a Chris Carson owner. I don't know why they did it today. If this continues, okay, but I don't know. I mean, most teams do use multiple running backs. You just don't want to see.
Why Alex Collins?
Get TDs. I mean, you just don't want to see it.
Why Alex Collins?
Of course, because he's back. Because he won't ever leave.
But that's what it is. That just something to monitor if you're a Chris Carson owner. That's not great. It's not what you want to see. DK Metcalf, 4 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. That's okay. So he's done this a few weeks now. First game, 4 for 60 and a touchdown. Last week he did 6 for 107 and a touchdown. Week 2 was 6 for 53, and this was 4 for 65. Not great volume in the catches there. I don't love that, but at least he has 3 touchdowns. I just would like to see like a nice 8 for 120 game or something. 8, something a little more, but it's just not there yet.
At least he's starting to get the touchdowns, because the one thing that really makes me feel better about it was the fact that he did have 8 targets. So I honestly, like, Tyler Lockett was a little more worrisome. I think both of these guys will bounce back and be really good, but Tyler Lockett, after being on fire, 4 catches for only 24 yards. He was targeted 5 times, which is fine, but you would like to see a little more out of him and Metcalf. But honestly, once again, it was more of it was kind of a grinded out game, to be honest, because, Russell Wilson, even though he looked really good, his numbers were great. He only threw it 23 times. He had 150 yards passing. So obviously no one is going to look that great. So it was just one of those games.
So Tyler Lockett had the massive start to the season, and then the last 2 weeks combined, 8 catches for 55 yards. So
yeah, does that freak you out at all? Because he's still going to be really high up there. He has
I'm not that
draft
worried.
capital right now.
I'm really not. A lot of just because, again, when you only have 16 completions, same thing I said about Dallas and CeeDee Lamb, right? When there's minimal completions in a day, someone's just not going to do anything, and really nobody did anything. Metcalf had the same amount of catches as Lockett. Metcalf just had a touchdown, a few more yards. So it is what it is on that one. I'm not too worried right now. For the 49ers, Garoppolo, like I said, went out with an injury at halftime. He had 165 yards, touchdown, and a pick. Trey Lance comes in. He honestly didn't look that great at all, but he was 9 for 18. He got 2 touchdowns out of it. One was just a broken coverage. Debo was just sitting there wide open. You couldn't mess it up, and he gets a 76-yard touchdown.
Debo, I mean,
and he gets another touchdown.
Thing? I'm even starting to ask, is that a real thing? Because Debo has had a couple major games, and I keep saying, like he had a broken coverage against Detroit too. But it keeps happening to him.
I know,
So
right?
like,
Debo's a top. He's top 20. I mean, people are going to say top 15 wide receiver at this point. But he was. I mean, Trey Lance. I'm not sold on Trey Lance right now. I don't know. I would if it was Jimmy Garoppolo when he was doing this. I'd feel a little better about Debo, but I'm not sold on Trey Lance next week at all.
No, I'm not either. And we saw what happened to the other rookie quarterbacks, right? And everyone's different. Lance could be the exception. He's been able to sit on the bench, get a little more comfortable than the other guys. But once the defenses kind of see you and throw a few different looks at you, it's a lot tougher than what you think it's going to be. And like you said, without that one broken coverage, his numbers look, not that great for what he was able to do. But the one thing we do like is running quarterbacks, right? As far as fantasy goes. And he did carry it 7 times for 41 yards. So what kind of upside does he actually have?
I mean, he has a lot of upside for himself as an option. If he can just be competent in passing and the running games there, he's definitely somebody to look at. Not next week. I don't want to do that right away. We'll see what he can do, after a week, and then maybe you could play him. But I just don't feel great about it for the offense. But Lance, I mean, if he's okay, we'll just see what he can be, right? I just don't honestly know what to expect from him right now. I don't.
I don't either. And the thing that will really interest me is there's a couple of guys that got off to really slow starts, right? And I'm talking specifically about Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. Mm-hmm. And Kittle has not been good this year. And he, like today, 4 for 40, 11 targets. So they're trying to throw him the ball and they just can't get it to him. Mm-hmm. Do you think, I'm wondering if Trey Lance coming in, if that changes things around, and maybe it hurts Debo a little bit, even though he has this big play today. But I'm wondering if it changes the tide and all of a sudden Kittle becomes more involved in the offense, and maybe Ayuk comes back a little bit. I don't know. What do you think that there's chance for that, or you just kind of like Kittle is what he is, and he's going to be a mediocre tight end?
I mean, I still think Kittle can be good. I don't have confidence in it right now. I would probably try to trade George Kittle if he still has that value, and he still probably does more being tight end. Just with tight end being so weak, people would still think, okay, it's George Kittle. He can turn it around. He can be good.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he has a top 5 name alone because you would take a chance on him, right?
Yeah, he's at that position. I think I would honestly try to trade him. I'm just not seeing it right now from him. So I would see what you can get for him. But if not, you keep him there. But again, that's you try to trade him. Right? What are you getting? Tight ends, like I said, tight end's no good. What are you going to? You still need the tight end.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you would trade him and then you would just stream tight end. That's pretty much you'd be punting tight end, streaming it, which is fine because every once in a while he'll do well. But you can go off and hopefully improve one of your other positions. And honestly, it's turning into, once again, it's always great to have one of these great quarterbacks, especially if you have Kyler, Mahomes, whatever it may be. Russell Wilson has been very solid this year. There's a handful of guys that have been really good. But if you have to stream quarterback and stream tight end, not the end of the world. Actually, we've both done this a bunch of times when injuries strike, whatever it may be. So if you're hurting and you're losing games and you have these guys, I do think that there's a way through it where you can trade your top end quarterback, your top end tight end, and build a team that you can stream those areas around. But it's probably for another episode.
And for next game, let's go Ravens.
Actually, the last thing I will ask, because you are a big purveyor of Trey Sermon, he finally got to play. Yeah, what did you think about it? 19 carries, 89 yards.
He was solid. I thought he looked pretty good. My only worry with this is if Elijah Mitchell's back next week, it's who knows what the backfield is. You had like 1 week where there's a certain guy that's going to be there, right? When Mitchell's back next week, most likely, I don't feel good. And then if Jeff Wilson comes back in a few weeks, there's even another guy to play. So as much as I liked what I saw, I know I'm worried about the future.
Don't get too excited about it quite yet.
Yeah, there's going to be too many guys. Yeah. How about Ravens Broncos? Ravens win 23-7. Lamar throws for 316 yards and a touchdown, runs for 28. Latavius Murray led the backfield this time around, 18 carries, 59 yards, a touchdown. So it wasn't great on the ground, but he was the back there. Olivia Bell, 4 for 11. Devontae Freeman, 1 for 4. A few years ago, this backfield would have been amazing.
I know. That's a throwback.
And Tyson Williams was a healthy scratch in this one. So that was kind of a little bit of a surprise. Marquis Brown, 4 for 91 and a touchdown. James Prochet, a name I haven't heard in a while since we were talking like deep sleepers a couple of years ago. 5 for 74. It's about the first I've seen him actually get any action, I feel like.
Yeah, he was. I'm very excited because I think he was just last year, right? But he was.
He was 2020 pick.
Yeah, he was. He was one that I really liked coming out of college as like maybe a sleeper guy, and falling here, I thought maybe he would have more of an opportunity last year. It didn't work out, so it's very cool to see him working his way into a lineup that still needs playmakers, but at least they're getting people around him. I mean, Watkins is decent. You have Mark Andrews, obviously, Duvernay, and now him. And then obviously Hollywood Brown is going to be the guy.
Well, and Bateman's going to be back anytime now.
Yeah. So. And hopefully he's everything people are telling us he is. Yep. But yeah, it's kind of a fun, a smorgasbord of wide receivers that Lamar can throw to. And finally he goes for over 300 yards passing. And that it kind of looked a little more dynamic than at least I thought it was earlier in this year. So it's kind of fun to see. And Denver does have a good defense. So This was excellent to see from them.
Yep. For the Denver side of things, Bridgewater left the game, I believe, with a concussion at halftime. He wasn't playing really well anyway. He was 7 for 16, 65 yards, a touchdown. But Drew Lock really didn't do much either. On the run game, they got down. They couldn't really run the ball. Gordon 9 for 56, Devonte Williams 7 for 48. One though was a really nice 31-yard run where he's just carrying people. That was nice to see, but there just wasn't a lot there, and it's not gonna be a good day because of it. Cortland Sutton threw 47. Fant, if you played him, he got that touchdown, so that 6 for 46 works. Tim Patrick's 3 for 39. Not a lot today for the Broncos. They're definitely better with Bridgewater, I feel like, but we'll see.
We have to give him a lot of credit because it's very apparent that they just work better with him. And
it is.
I really hope that he can come back. But if not, I'm hoping that Drew Lock can show something, because you were just starting to see what Sutton and these other guys could do as far as playmakers. So we'll see. They're 3-1 now. They were playing really good football.
All right. Next, this will be the last one, actually. Steelers. Packers win 27-17. Rodgers throws for 248 and 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns both went to Randall Cobb. So, right?
Of course. Why wouldn't it?
Of course. But the ground game's really interesting here when you see that split. A.J. Dillon, 15 carries, 81 yards. Aaron Jones, 15 carries, 48 yards. Definitely playing A.J. Dillon now, right?
Yeah, they are. And I think that's as far as football goes, that's a really good thing. He is a pounded out back. He's a big guy when you watch him run the ball, and he ran it very effectively today. Well, the big thing here is Aaron Jones is still a very much part of the receiving.
Well, and a lot of this was A.J. Dillon late. When they had a pretty decent lead, he got more work than Aaron Jones towards the end. But it's not even that. It's like he played well with that work he got, though. Like, it could be something where they see, they play him more often with that, and he could eat into Aaron Jones. But Aaron Jones is still the guy, obviously, and he had 3 for 51 through the air. Just A.J. Dillon's good enough to play, though. He's definitely could keep eating into it, play more and more. So we'll see how that plays out. Like I said, Cobb was 5 for 69, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams 6 for 64. They just didn't need him to do as much in this one, I guess. So once in a while you have those days, right? But for the Steelers, Roethlisberger 232, a touchdown pick. Roethlisberger's done. He's done.
He is. I don't like to say it, but
he's done.
They have to move on. I mean, they have a really talented running back. They have a talented wide receiving core. They don't have anyone to put in there. But
no, they haven't planned for this. They don't have a backup option, which is why, you look at the Packers, the other side of things, that drafting Jordan Love kind of, hurt them in Aaron Rodgers' eyes, but you get what they're doing, right? They don't want to end up in a situation like this where they have a player who all of a sudden can't play and they have no option behind him. Like, there's just nothing here.
They did get Mason Rudolph,
but
a few years back. It just didn't work out for anyone else they had, right?
No. So Roethlisberger, he's going to do what he does there. Nashi Harris, he's the only one that's going to get carries. 15 carries, 62 yards, a touchdown, 6 catches this week, not like 14 like last week. Deontay Johnson, 9 for 92 and a touchdown. There was no Chase Claypool today, and Juju goes 2 for 11. Still, just the fall that Juju has had from his peak when, it's just ridiculous.
It is heartbreaking to watch. I mean, it's something you would love to see young guys have when you take that kind of rocket ship to production and stardom, you don't expect them to completely fall off a cliff.
I mean, He was a 22-year-old receiver, 111 catches, 1,400 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's just crazy. And Ben doesn't help, to be honest.
No, he doesn't. But I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but life was a lot better for Steelers and Juju when Antonio Brown was there.
Yep, it was.
I mean, he made everyone look good, and Roethlisberger was definitely, he was just a more healthy version of himself. I hope he can get back there. Maybe there's nagging injuries I don't know about, but right now, I mean, they're 1-3 and they just do not look good.
Yep. Well, all right, that'll do it for the week 4 recap. We'll be back tomorrow with some waiver wire pickups for you guys. Talk to you then.